Okay, let's have this discussion. Is it okay for a school to not allow outside observers, professionals, due to the pandemic? And when it comes to something like that, there is no rule written because this has happened as far as the pandemic um, without any kind of rule changes to special education law. All right, so what we have to do is we have to go back and sort of look at various things like reason, logic, how dare us venture into that realm. And also you have to look at, let's say, state and local health orders. All right, that's another one. But then at the same time, you have to balance that with, a school's policy, but the policy in and of itself doesn't give them an absolute right to deny access because what it ends up doing is it ends up conflicting with other um, requirements or allowances, and which also trip into special education. It trips into Title One, things of that nature. Okay, so you have to look at all of it and then sort of make a decision. So if you don't have any state and local uh, prohibitions against, let's say, in-person services and things of that nature, and let's say your school has adopted COVID-safe practices, and those COVID-safe practices must be reasonable, then at that point, as long as this person, let's say, has um, follows those guidelines, all right, whatever the school's guidelines are for COVID safe practices, then it wouldn't make any sense. There's your reason and your logic component for them to deny access to professionals coming in to serve a specific purpose for a child in the form of conducting observations. And, at that point, you tip into a category of potentially inhibiting or impeding the parent's right to full parental participation. It also potentially impedes a child's ability to receive a FAPE. I mean, it can sit there and trickle and trickle and trickle into bigger problems. Do I potentially see this as far as COVID, whatever else, flu, as a potential mechanism for some schools to abuse the process? Absolutely. Why do I think that? Because they've already done that with FERPA. They've already done that with, absolutely blatantly, and either blatantly or ignorantly lying to parents, claiming that a parent has limited access to the school or limited access to classrooms because of student privacy, when that's an absolute misreading of FERPA and student privacy in the first place, because it only applies to records. It doesn't apply to hallways and classrooms and instruction. It just doesn't apply to that stuff. And so to sit there and have schools use the privacy excuse for a way to obstruct, deny transparency, not have to deal with parents. So, you just sit there and come up with an excuse so that they're not around, even though they're the ones that pay your bills. Then at that point, you see where this is just another convenient excuse to further deny parents access, or their professionals, or an independent evaluator. It's just another way to, carve out the little kingdom and the little fiefdom, which is a particular public school. I say that knowing that the mass majority isn't behaving like this. You're only going to have, certain schools, and it all depends on administration. These decisions are made by administration. And unfortunately, if national politics and state politics hasn't shown you that right now we have a problem with leadership. We have a problem with bad leaders, and they've been sort of empowered by the stuff that you see going on around you, from, the belief that you can just sort of shut down somebody's free speech, or that you can sit there and deny access to things because they happen to be in these decision-making positions. I don't acknowledge that crap. But the reason that people are getting away with it is too many of you are acknowledging it. I don't acknowledge people within their fake power. Okay, they have no power. That's what I'm saying. I mean, there's no rule that says they can do stuff like that. That's just policy that they've invented in their own mind, and they can sit there and shroud it in safety, which is what they all do, which then makes other people go, oh, it's for safety. Guys, I can't tell you. I can give you historical example after historical example of the craziest things done in the name of safety, done in the name of security. It is the grandiose excuse for oppression. And, unless a lot of you guys wake up and sort of smell the coffee and understand what's going on, then you're going to be excused to death. You're just never going to have access to the school where you're the one paying the bills. This is your money being used to educate your child or not educate your child. Just because you work in a school or just because people work in a school, I'm not going to sit there and, I'm not speaking to anybody in particular. I'm saying that there are these locations out there with bad leadership that sit there and want to create these antiseptically cleansed environments where they don't have to deal with parents. And then at that point, they don't have to sit there and answer questions. And at that point, they don't have to be challenged. And at that point, they can do what they want. And I can tell you what, some of the things being taught to our kids, it's repugnant. Some of the things that they're teaching to our children, and they're getting away with it because parents aren't paying attention, or they're not allowed inside of school to understand what's going on. But in this particular situation, if you have a professional that needs to come in and observe your child and they're following COVID-safe practices, there should be absolutely no reason, and there's no rule that says that they can't or that they can deny them. And like I said, it potentially creates a trickle-down effect to where it potentially impacts your child's ability to receive a free, appropriate public education.